You ever notice how the nicer you are to a woman, the faster she seems to lose interest? You start doing everything right, replying quickly, showering her with compliments, being super available, and suddenly, she goes distant. It's puzzling at first, right? You think, I'm treating her well, so why is she pulling away? But here's the tough pill to swallow. What you see as kindness, she might read as weakness. Women don't test you just for kicks. They test to gauge your strength. And strength doesn't mean being arrogant, it's about having emotional control. When you can stay calm while she's emotional. When you don't chase after her when she withdraws. When you don't over-explain yourself, that when she starts to respect you. She realizes you're not living for her reaction. Most guys mess up attraction by trying way too hard to prove they regu de nog. They think that the more affection they show, the more secure she feel. But it's the opposite. The more you chase validation, the more she doubts your value. Women are like emotional detectors. They can sense insecurity from a mile away. If you're giving from a place of fear, she picks up on it. If you're chasing her because you're scared to lose her, she feels that energy instantly. A cold man isn't someone who ignores her. He's someone who stays grounded. He doesn't let her emotions dictate his state of mind. When she pulls back, he doesn't panic. When she gets distant, he doesn't spiral into anxiety. He waits, observes, and responds. When it's necessary, that stillness, that patience, resonates with her deeper than any compliment ever could. Every woman wants to feel safe, but safety doesn't come from being soft, it comes from being stable. A nice guy gives her sweet words, but a grounded man gives her his presence. One tries to make her happy, while the other makes her feel secure. The difference? It's everything. When a man gives too much attention, he becomes predictable. Predictability kills excitement. She doesn't feel that tension anymore. And without tension, there's no attraction. You can't desire what you have complete control over. That's why she gets bored and starts pulling away from the guy who cares too much. Here's the paradox. Women are drawn to men who don't need them. Neediness feels like emotional debted. Demands repayment. Independence. That's emotional abundance. It invites respect. A cold man doesn't withhold love. He simply doesn't beg for it. He gives from strength, not desperation. Women subconsciously crave polarity, masculine stability meeting feminine chaos. That's what creates chemistry. But when you lose control of yourself just to please her, you flip the polarity. You become the emotional one, reacting and overthinking, while she becomes the grounded one. And once that happens, the dynamic is dead. What most guys don't get is this. The less you try to convince her, the more she feels your value. Silence can communicate power when it's coming from a place of self. You don't have to prove anything or chase after her. Because deep down, attraction isn't about what you say it. It's about what you don't need to say. A man who learns emotional control becomes unshakable. He doesn't react to every mood swing or silent treatment. He knows that attention is currency, and he spends it wisely. Most guys waste it, giving constant reassurance, texting non-stop, chasing her down, and then they wonder why she's no longer impressed. But respect isn't built through comfort, it's built through composure. When you stop over-explaining yourself, you become mysterious. When you stop seeking validation, you become powerful. Women feel this instinctively. They don't want a guy who is desperate to be understood. They want a man who doesn't need to be. His silence doesn't mean he's uninterested. It means he knows his worth doesn't hinge on her approval. The cold man understands that attraction is all about emotional tension, not emotional comfort. He keeps his distance, not to manipulate, but to maintain polarity. When you overexpose yourself, she stops wondering. When she stops wondering, she stops feeling. Mystery fuels female desire. Keeps her imagination alive. You ever notice how she ignores your messages when you seemed available, but respond quickly when you pull back? That's not a coincidence. That's instinct. A woman's emotions are drawn toward uncertainty. When she can't predict you, she starts thinking about you. When she starts thinking about you, she starts feeling for you. That's the psychology of attention. A man who gives too much attention, too, soon kills the tension. It's like overwatering a plant. You think you're helping, but you're actually drowning it. Attention must be earned, not just given away. When you give it freely, it loses its meaning. But when you make her earn it, every small gesture from you feels significant. That's how respect is built, through scarcity, not saturation. Now, a lot of guys get this twisted. They think being cold means acting rude or distant on purpose. That's just weakness, dressed up as toughness. Real coldness, it's natural self-possession. It's the ability to care without losing your cool, to love without losing control, to give without expecting anything in return. That kind of calm confidence, it's magnetic. You don't have to play games. Just stop bleeding energy everywhere. Stop over-investing in people who haven't earned it. When you make yourself too emotionally available, you teach her to take you for granted. And once a woman stops fearing losing you, you've already lost her. Women don't fall for men they fully understand. They fall for men who make them feel something they can't quite define. When she doesn't know what you're thinking, she starts guessing. When she starts guessing, she gets emotionally invested. That's why indifference from a high-value man feels addictive. It pulls her deeper into curiosity. The truth is, women respect men who lead with calmness. The man who can handle her storms without reacting gives her what most guys can't: stability. Every woman wants a man she can lean on emotionally without him crumbling under pressure. When she feels your steadiness, she relaxes. And that's when real intimacy begins, when she trusts your strength more than your words. Being cold isn't about being detached. It's about having control. You control your reactions, your emotions, and your energy. And because you reign control, you create space for respect. Women might test you, provoke you, or withdraw, but the man who remains unmoved always wins in the end. Every woman will test you not because she's cruel, but because she needs to know what kind of man she's dealing with. Tests aren't about logic. They're about emotion. When she ignores your text, gets moody for no reason, or throws attitude, she's subconsciously asking, "Can you handle me without losing yourself?" Most guys fail that question instantly. They panic, start over-texting, over-apologizing, or begging for peace. But that's exactly what kills attraction. When you start reacting emotionally, she sees that her moods control you. And if she can control your emotions, she can never fully respect you. A cold man doesn't fail those tests because he doesn't take them personally. He understands that women don't test strong men to break them, they test to trust them. Every emotional storm is a subconscious screening process. She's not looking for a perfect guy, she's looking for one who stays calm under pressure. That's why arguments don't end. Relationships weakness dose. The moment you raise your voice, over-explain, or start proving your innocence, you lose your frame. You're playing defense in a game where silence is dominance. A man who can stand still while she loses control becomes the anchor she secretly craves. Women don't want to lead emotionally. They want to feel the gravity of a man who leads with his energy. When she storms out and you don't chase her, when she gives you silence and you match it calmly, that's when she starts thinking, "Did I go too far?" Her respect grows in the absence of your reaction. See, respect and attraction come from the same source: uncertainty. If she knows exactly what you'll do every time, she stops feeling that tension. That tension is what creates excitement. The cold man doesn't give her chaos. He gives her peace, but only when he decides to. That unpredictability, it's power. Being cold doesn't mean being emotionless. It means being emotionally sovereign. You don't let her moods dictate yours. You don't need her reassurance to feel valuable. When you stop needing, you start leading. That's the transition every guy must make from validation seeker to self-assured presence. Think about it, the men women admire most aren't the loudest or the kindest. They're the most composed. They move with calm certainty. They don't react. They decide. That is what masculinity is at its core. The ability to remain centered when everything around you is testing your control. A man who is emotionally disciplined becomes dangerous, not in a violent way, but in a magnetic way. His calmness makes people adjust to him. His energy commands attention without demanding it. And that kind of power makes women feel something they can't explain it. Not love at first, it's respect. When she respects you, she opens up emotionally. She drops her walls because she senses your strength. The nice guy tries to open her heart with softness. The grounded man does it with stability. That's the difference. One wants to be accepted, while the other stands complete. Women are drawn to completion. They want men who don't need saving, fixing, or mothering. When you start acting, there comes a point in every man's life where he finally stops chasing. Not just women, but everything that drains his energy. He stops trying to explain himself to people who never cared. He stops trying to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding him. He becomes quiet, still, cold, but not because he's broken, because he's finally done wasting warmth on people who only felt comfortable when he was weak. That's when his presence changes. He starts walking slower, speaking less and thinking more. His priorities shift from getting attention to commanding it, from being liked to being respected, from seeking love to earning peace. And women feel that. They sense when a man has stepped into his power, when his silence carries more weight than his words ever did. That's the kind of man she can't manipulate, can't control, can't forget. Because that kind of man isn't chasing her, he's chasing purpose. You see, being cold doesn't mean being cruel. It means you stop handing out your energy like free samples. It means you value your time, your attention, your emotions. It means you no longer tolerate disrespect, disinterest, or indecision. It's not that he doesn't care, it's that he cares selectively. And that selective energy is what makes him powerful, because the man who could walk away controls every room he walks into. The man who doesn't beg for love earns real love. The man who no longer needs validation becomes impossible to replace. And that's the paradox. When you stop trying to be the nice guy and start being the grounded man, life rewards you with everything the nice guy was begging for. Respect, desire, peace. So, from this moment on, stop explaining yourself to women who test your worth. Stop proving your value to people who can't even see their own. Stop chasing validation. Instead, build silence, build discipline, build emotional control. Because once you master those three things, you'll never have to chase anyone again. They'll come to you. Not because you're cold-hearted, but because your warmth now has value. And in a world full of desperate men, a man who can stay calm, controlled, and cold when everyone else is begging, that's the man every woman secretly craves, and every man quietly wants to become.